There are elders who have favorites. I've seen that in many, many churches. They show partiality to their own children or to their own friends. They don't deal with them in the same way they deal with others. This is all, if you're unconscious of it and you don't know it, okay, it's not a crime. It's like a snake hidden somewhere, you don't know it, it's there. But if you see it and you don't do anything about it, it's pretty serious. Or you're not asking God to give you light on that. You're not going with a torch under every cupboard to see whether there is a snake there. If you're not serious about it, you're not serious about getting rid of these things from your life. I'll tell you this, my brothers and sisters, it's selfishness, pride, partiality. These are some of the terrible sins that hinder people from building a new covenant church. You cannot do it. You got to, I remember years ago seeing a picture of an automobile company in India where they had a board on one of the walls, "We aim for zero defect." I said, boy, that's a great word for the church and for my life and for my home. We aim for zero defect. Now, I don't think there's any car ever produced that has zero defect, but that particular company did pretty well because they aimed for zero defect and became a lot better than all of the other Indian cars that were produced. Now, I'll tell you this, if you make that your motto, that you aim for zero defect in your personal life, in your home life, in your church, you'll go a long way. And there's another thing from that which we got, which those car companies don't have. We are the opposite of that. Their aim is we aim for zero defect, but we aim for maximum profit. But in the church, we say we aim for zero defect and we aim for zero profit. Zero profit from our ministry or from anything we do, even our book ministry, internet ministry, CD ministry. Our aim is at the end of the balance sheet, when it's finally made, when the Lord comes, our profit is zero. Then we have achieved it. In other words, everything that came in goes 100% for the ministry. Nobody's making money out of all this. We aim for zero defect. We aim for zero profit. Now, that's not what the devil doesn't have such mottos. And people who don't have such mottos are in some way a little bit in league with the devil. They allow a little bit of defect, it's not serious. You know that little bit of defect can cause a car to crash, cause your life to crash, cause your home to crash. It happens. Why is it there are so many divorces? It used to be only in Western lands and it's crept into India. How's that? It's crept in wherever Western influences come. It's because those families from day one never aim for zero defect. They live in selfishness and pride, and then you always end up in divorce if you continue to live in selfishness and pride. And in India, where divorce is frowned upon, you may not end up in divorce. You just may end up with a house that is always fighting, where people are fighting with each other. I agree it's better than divorce because the children don't suffer. But that's not the place where you can say, the prince of the world, the ruler of the world comes to my house and he finds nothing. How many of you can say, Satan comes to examine your house and he doesn't find a filthy movie there? He doesn't find any movie with corrupt sex scenes in any of the DVDs in your house? You see, only 5 seconds. It's only 5 seconds of that dirty sex scene. But that's what the devil lays hold of. Burn it, get rid of it. Don't sell it to somebody else and make him sin. Do what the people in Ephesus did. They burnt all those things which had connections with the devil. Get rid of it, destroy it before you get rid of it. Can you say that the devil comes to your house and he can find nothing? No book, no pages in any book that dishonor Christ? You want to build a church, you better start with your home. Go through it. I'm told that the Israelites on the day before the Passover would go with a lamp under the beds and everywhere to see if there was a little bit of leaven. Because they ate leavened bread on other days, but on the day of the Passover and the next day, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, there was not supposed to be a bit of leaven in the house. And little babies or their children, they could have dropped a bit of bread somewhere and they had to go searching. I love that picture. I wish I could get a painting of that, of these people looking under the beds for a bit of leaven. I wish Christians could have that picture in their mind, looking in the corners of their heart for a little bit of selfishness or partiality. Not just saying, I'm waiting for God to reveal it to me. I'll tell you, He'll never reveal it to you because you're not serious. Those Israelites didn't sit down in their easy chairs and say, Lord, show us if there's any leaven inside the house. No, God was not going to do it. They had to take the lamp, crawl under the beds to see if it was there. You got to do that. We're not half as wholehearted as those Israelites. Will you go with that lamp through your house and get rid of everything starting today, and anything that dishonors God in your house, so that you'll be able to say, the prince of the world comes to my house and he finds nothing there? Zacchaeus wanted to do it. It says in Luke 19 that when Jesus came to Zacchaeus' house, he stood there before the gate and said, Lord, I'm just imagining what he said, because it says he stopped. Lord, you can't come to this house. You're a holy man. This house has been built with black money, unjustly earned money. You can't come in here. I must first return to all the people I've stolen from, cheated as a tax collector, all the money that's given. I want to make you that promise. And Jesus said, I believe you. The promise is as good as the action. You don't have to wait. It may take you 10 years to return it, but your salvation has come to your house today. I want Jesus to say, it's the only place in the Gospels where Jesus said to somebody, salvation has come to your house. Luke 19. Do you want Jesus to say to you, salvation has come to your house today, because you decided to get rid of everything over which the devil has a claim in your house? Take it seriously. You'll become a man of God. You'll be a woman of God. You don't become a man of God just by studying the Bible. You don't become a man of God just by learning how to preach. You've got to have a life before Christ. And so now we understand what Jesus said in Matthew 16 about building the church. I will build my church, verse 18, and the gates of hell, which is the powers of spiritual darkness, it says in the margin of my NASB, the powers of spiritual darkness will not be able to the powers of spiritual death, rather. The powers of spiritual death will not be able to overpower it. What is it that death cannot overpower? An indestructible life. We come back to the priesthood of Melchizedek. The power of an indestructible life which death cannot overpower. Imagine having a joy which, like Jesus said in John 16, nobody can take away from you. That's a great verse. I really love that verse. Your joy, no man can take away from you. He said that to his disciples in John 16. Sometimes, I don't like to say the verse because I want you to search for it. We're so lazy. Go and search for that verse. I told you the chapter. A joy nobody can take away from you. You'll get to know the scriptures. There is a joy nobody can take away from us. An indestructible joy which the devil tries. Can't take it away. You can search for it later. Please listen to me now. A joy which nobody can take away from you. It says in Philippians 4 of a peace that passes understanding. It says in Ephesians 3 of a love, to know the love of Christ which is beyond understanding. You know that love, that joy, that peace? It's an indestructible type of thing. People try to kill that love in you by hating you, calling you the devil. Brother, I still love you. Do you have that? That people can speak evil of you and you still love them. People can do evil to you, you still love them. People can hate you, you still love them. That's an indestructible love. Or an indestructible joy, like Habakkuk says in the end of his book, The fig tree doesn't blossom. There's no fruit in the vines. There's no herd in the stalls. The sheep have died. The oxen have died. But I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. That's how he ends that beautiful letter of Habakkuk. And there's a little note at the end of it. That's what I love. He said, please don't sing this to a monotonous tune. Sing it with stringed instruments with joy. I like that. What are we going to sing with stringed instruments with joy? There's no harvest. The sheep have died. The oxen have died. Sing it with joy. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. That's an indestructible life. Habakkuk only had a taste of it. We have the Holy Spirit. You know, it's called in other words, it's called the power of resurrection. That's the indestructible life which death cannot touch. And the only way to build a church is with this resurrection power of Jesus Christ. The greatest event that took place on this earth was not the death of Christ on the cross, but his resurrection from the grave. We need to understand that. We've spoken about the way of the cross. It is so important. We spoke about it the other day, seeing the way of the cross. I'll tell you, having said that, that is not the greatest thing that happened. Death to self is not the greatest thing. It's only a way to resurrection. I mean, all of you, when you came from your home this morning, you traveled by a road. But if you got so taken up with the road and say, boy, they've paved this road. This is a great road. I just love this road, and spend your time admiring that, you wouldn't be here this morning. The road was only a way by which you had a goal to get to CFC this morning. And I've seen Christians who are taken up with the cross. The cross. I've got to die. And it sounds pretty close to Hinduism and yoga. Death and death. And you can look at their faces and you know they are miserable and dead in any case. Because they're concentrating on death. Death, 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 death. Death is there, but it's a way. The rent veil is a picture of death, but it's a way. I'm not stuck in the veil. I'm gone through the veil into the most holy place, which is the presence of the Father. That's where I've got to live, but it's through the veil, I agree. I mean, I've got to come through the road to get here. There is a way, and the way is important, but the way is not the goal. The veil is not where I get stuck. There is a narrow gate, but it leads to a narrow way. Remember that. And that is my goal, is the power of his resurrection. The greatest event that ever happened on this earth is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And the devil doesn't want us to know that. That's why, like I've often said, you see more paintings of Jesus hanging on the cross in the world than you see paintings of Jesus coming out of the grave alive. Tell me, in how many homes have you seen paintings of Jesus coming out of the grave alive? Even the Bible story books don't have much of that. But there are millions and millions of paintings of Jesus hanging on the cross, looking so helpless. The devil wants you to see and meditate on a helpless Jesus. Little baby in Bethlehem, that's another famous painting. Or kneeling in Gethsemane in weakness, that's another famous painting. Or hanging on the cross, it's another famous painting. Or this effeminate, Sacred Heart, I'll bless every home where he looks like a woman. This is not Jesus. I want to see a resurrected, mighty, muscular Jesus who looks like a man, not like a woman. Men are not supposed to look like women. Women are not supposed to look like men, but men are supposed to look like men. And Jesus did not look like a woman. He was a man, every inch of him. And when he was resurrected, he was more of a man than ever. In an indestructible life. Now, when Lazarus was raised from the dead, it was not resurrection. He was just raised from the dead in order to die again. Death had power over him. Every guy who was raised from the dead in the Old Testament and New Testament died again. Death had power over them. But resurrection was different. Jesus rose from the dead. Death had no power over him. And Jesus says, I will build my church, and the powers of death will not be able to overcome it. You see the connection? That the church can only be built with resurrection power, with this indestructible life of the priesthood of Melchizedek. It all fits in together now. Now we understand Scripture. This is what the priesthood of Melchizedek is about. This is what the indestructible life is about. And we try to build a church with destructible life, with a little improved life. I don't lose my temper as much as my neighbor. Great. He got 0 and you got 1%. You're better than him, right? And you're glorying in the fact, Mom, I got 1%. I came first in my class. What stupidity. Do you aim for 100% like Jesus?